Hey, it's Nicole Kellerman-Worth, CEO of WildlyAlive.com, where we help women get on the same team as their bodies so they can feel and look their best. When a woman realizes how badass her body is, she feels alive and is no longer afraid to create the life she's always wanted. I know this to be true because it's happened to me and thousands of our clients. Welcome to the journey of getting on the same team as your body. Hello, sisters. Oh my goodness. Today, I am so excited to share with you not only more concepts about our relationship with other females and sisterhood and all of that we have been talking about here on the podcast for the month of February, but I want to introduce you to somebody who took this work and really applied it in such a deep and transformative way. So Shweta has been in the Wildly Alive world for quite some time. And the honest truth about the soul sister work and the soul sister journey is, I think you really have to be ready for it. And I know that I think if you're here and you're listening to this, there's a part of you who's definitely piqued your interest. I think after maybe even the first episode of this podcast that went out, there was maybe a handful of women that were just like, all right, I'll just wait till next month. I don't need to talk about, I don't even want to look at this. Or there is like denial of, I don't have any problems here. And again, I was in denial for a very long time. So I totally understand that. But something that Shweta did when we went through Sisterhood Rising, and then we moved on to the actual class in Soul Sister within Wildly Alive Mastery, is she really took these concepts and she really applied them. And they created a lot of change in her life. And so wanted to have Shweta on here to kind of voice the power of this work and also talk about how much stronger than you think that you are, because women avoid this because they feel like the pain will overtake them. They feel like they're not strong enough to look at their sisterhood wounds. And, you know, that's a lot of what we're going to talk about here with Shweta, because she had some work to do in that area, as all of us do, and how looking at this and not running away from it and not eating it away or drinking it away or scrolling it away has really transformed into some really great friendships and soul sister relationships since she took the course. I think you did the class last year. Yeah, last year. And so, okay, Shweta, hello, hi.
Hi, so happy to be here.
Yay. Okay. So wait,
Yes.
before we go into Soul Sister, I would love for you to just share a little bit about your experience in Wildly Alive in general so far.
Well, I have so much to say, but very short, keeping it very short. I discovered Wildly Alive when I most needed it, to be honest. I, I had I've always had a complicated relationship with my body right from childhood. My journals, which I used to write every day as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, a lot of the entries are about how I'm not happy with my body. Look how fat I am. Look at this, look at that. Why don't I have willpower? And I've hated my body for a long time. And Wildly Alive was one of the first steps that I took in recognizing that, I can love my body into health, and I can love my body into a life where I can thrive. And it doesn't have to be about the weight, and it doesn't have to be about, numbers. I think it's been quite a few years on and off with Nicole and the sisters. One of the best things about Wildly Alive is the aspect of sisterhood. And I actually initially really avoided the sisterhood. I don't think I ever told this to you, Nicole, but initially I was like, I have to share, I have to talk, I have to let others support me. Oh, and I think that ties into what we are going to be talking about in this episode. And now I look back and I'm amazed because not only do I have an amazing sisterhood support in the community, in the Wildly Alive community, but even outside the community, I have amazing soul sisters who lift me up and hold me and inspire me. And uh, it's sometimes I can't believe my eyes that I went from there to there. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
been quite a ride.
that's awesome. And so, yeah, we'll talk more today about like how sisterhood even directly affected your relationship with your body too,
Yeah,
because I think at first thought we can't see the connection, but then when you think about it, if we have these sisterhood wounds from our past, which we all have, and we're protecting our heart and we're not letting women in, like we are really, as women, designed to be in community and sisterhood. We unconsciously sabotage ourselves, and most women in the Wildly Alive community unconsciously sabotage their bodies and their health.
yeah,
So yeah, okay, so let's dive into the sisterhood piece. This is so great. So I did not know that you were. I mean, I do think that there are women who come in. At most women come in and they're just a little like, oh, okay, wow, this is very like it's maybe intimidating isn't the right word. But okay, this is how we can think about it. When we were kids and we were little girls and we were being welcomed into a circle of women, like, gosh, the pressure, the are they going to like me? Am I going to be who they want me to be? Like, I could see how that could be, because typically, especially with mastery, you can come in at any time. Is there's already an established sisterhood there. And so I could see how it could be a little intimidating or overwhelming of like, are these women even my people, you know?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think it is interesting that you brought up the childhood experience of being invited into sisterhood and the pressures that come in, because my sisterhood wounds sort of come from there, in the sense that I, for a long time as a child and even as a young adult, I had very few friends, and I was always the one from the outside looking in. I would look at these popular girls and I'd be like, oh man, I wish I was one of that circle. And sometimes I would be, but then I think the pressure would be so much. There was this constant lack of trust and this need for approval. And I kept thinking, what, do they like me? Am I safe here? Do I belong? So that, I think, interfered with how vulnerable I could be. And it wasn't a very happy experience for most of the time. I mean, I did have some really good friends, but for most of the time, looking back, I wasn't I wasn't very open with a lot of my friends for fear of being judged. And also, I think culturally, there is this idea of women being friends, which is very, either very competitive in nature, which is so sad, really, because if we remove that, we can be such great allies to each other. And also very passive aggressive. So the female relationships that I saw growing up, amongst my elders, etc., family, were also very passive aggressive, in the sense that something would be said, but the meaning and the context would be something else, which was very confusing. So for me, female relationships were always fraught with, I need to watch out.
Oh,
I can't really be myself. I can't fully show myself. Which, looking back, I feel sad, for the
yeah.
little girl. Yeah, that,
Yeah. I
that
mean,
is,
the safety piece. I mean, that, and we talk about this in Sisterhood Rising, is like some of my intentions going into creating that free experience for women is that they feel, and I'm getting the chills as I'm saying this, which is always validation for me, is like the safety of sisterhood. Because how devastating is it to have a moment of vulnerability with another woman and either her shut down or peace out, she's halfway out the door within minutes, or just not being able to hold that space. And again, like we talk about this because it's not necessarily her fault, because maybe she wasn't given the right tools, which I think most women weren't given the right tools to be able to handle those things. But within Soul Sister and in that class, we talk a lot about how to navigate these situations. And I know for me, I really craved that safety. I wanted a safe place to rise and not feel like somebody was going to beat me down and try to pull me under. And I also wanted a safe place to fall. And I think this is why this work is so important, because I think across the board, most women, I mean, 90-95% of women do not feel safe around other women. And like, this is a problem. Like, this is, and to think that this isn't affecting how we treat ourselves and how we numb out and how we like bored eat or lonely eat, like, this is in direct correlation with how you treat yourself and how you treat your body.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. So I sort of, I used to emotionally eat in the sense that, um, rather than accept to myself that I'm lonely, that something's off in my life, or there's this anxiety, there's this need that I need to be loved. As a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, I used to, just stuff my feelings down with food. And yes, absolutely, the dearth of sisterhood, the dearth of really, a space, a safe space, absolutely affected my body, my health, the way that I looked at my body also, right? Because, you know, um, I was looking outside for approval and love. I was not really doing that for myself. But also, there is something about having a great group of female, relationships around you who can support you, who are also themselves, loving their body, which makes such a difference to a young girl. And I think in terms of body image, in terms of how I looked at my body, that would have also made such a lot of a difference. Um,
Right.
Somebody to tell me. So I always think that, now the way that I am, maybe that's the woman that I needed growing up.
Hmm.
And that's such a lovely thing that, you become exactly who you needed when you were young, when you were a little girl.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, it's so true. It's so true. So, okay, when we started, so again, for those of you who maybe didn't catch episode one, Sisterhood Rising is the free experience that you can join, that starting at the right at the beginning of February. So if you got here February 2022 and you wanted to jump into that experience, it is going on. Okay, just check the show notes or check some sort of link around this video or audio. It's somewhere around here. So we started out with Sisterhood Rising, and we did it in the Wildly Alive Playground group, which is a free Facebook group. So if you're not really sure if Wildly Alive is your jam, the Playground group is a really great place to start. And so we started Sisterhood Rising. That's how we kind of started this whole conversation off. And then we continued it within the Wildly Alive Mastery program with the Soul Sister class. So when you started coming into that work and really gearing yourself up for looking at this, did you have any sort of intentions? Did you have any sort of hesitancies? Like, do you remember how you felt kind of at that time?
Well, it was scary. And I didn't think it would be scary, to be honest, because my intention coming into Wildly Alive in general, and even specifically to the module, I came in thinking that, I got this. This is a module that I don't think I have any sort of, wounds in there. I think I'll be able to do this. And then I came face to face with, I think, some old wounds and some belief systems. Like, for example, the perspective of being the outsider looking in, always the perspective of being a child needing that love. And of course, that child lives inside me today still. So of course it affects me as an adult. I think that was surprising initially for me. because I was like, hey, I'm gonna do this. I got this. And then all of a sudden you're face to face with these patterns and these limiting beliefs that you really did not want to look at. And then that is where the sisterhood, the Wildly Alive Sisterhood, that is where, Nicole, your consistent sort of presence in the sisterhood and your coaching sort of paid off, because right where I think I felt like, oh my God, I don't know if I'll be able to handle this, I was supported by the Wildly Alive sisters, by the mentors, by, you. And what I needed from my end was to engage in the sisterhood, was to be there, was to show up. And I
Right.
think that process helped me look at things like, oh, I place my value on how loved I am by, you know, these people in my life. But why? Right? And then I started going deeper. And I think that helped me sort of look at, what do I need in a soul sister? What
Mm,
kind of support do I need? Who do I want to attract into my life?
mm,
What are my boundaries? What is it that how do I feel respected? How do I feel loved? And it opened me up to a level of sort of self exploration that was not there before, because of all the fear that was there, to be frank, around this topic. So yeah, I started with a little bit of a sort of a, oh no, I didn't know that I'm going to come face to face with these challenges. I did not know I had these challenges in my life.
right.
And then then I started like looking back, like, oh yeah, these were the ways in which I limited myself. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think this, and this is what we're saying, is like it's become so normal for women to just be mean to each other. It's
Yeah.
been so normal to assume you're going to get backstabbed. It's been so it's like this subconscious thing where we, like, there's this denial, essentially, because there's not a lot of awareness around it. I mean, we all, every woman who is listening has been backstabbed by one or two women in their past. And so it's like we've kind of, and this is why this work is so important, we've kind of thrown up our hands and been like, well, this is just how it is. And so we've just accepted it. So then when we start to actually have a conversation around it and bring it up, there's a little bit of this denial of like, oh no, because we kind of just block it out. We act like it's not even like really I'm over that. Oh yeah, that hurt, but I it's water under the bridge, like I don't even think about it. And so, I think it's important that Shweta bring this up, because it's really easy when the going gets tough that you bail, like things start to come up and feelings start to emerge, and we start to think, oh, or like it's kind of unconscious where we're like, oh well, I just got too busy for that Sisterhood Rising free thing that Nicole's. I just got too busy. Or, I had other things to do, like laundry, like I had really important things to do, like laundry. And we need to approach this work with some courage and really understanding. And, I'm stressing this all throughout this month. And within Sisterhood Rising is, you can handle this. You can look at this. And if you can really just ground yourself into the community, and this is what was so brilliant about what Shweta was saying, is like she was feeling herself wobble, and she was feeling like, whoa, oh, there's a little bit more here than I was anticipating. And what she did, instead of turning away from the sisterhood, instead of turning away from herself and into her sabotaging behaviors, whatever that looked like, if it was food or wine or scrolling or whatever, or all of the above, she turned towards the sisterhood. She turned towards the mentors, towards the coaching, towards the resources and support available to her. And that helped her heal, because it helped you see that we are here to all heal this together as women. I mean, we as women just trigger the hell out of each other, and we're here to trigger each other so we can heal each other. Like your annoying boss or coworker who's a female who really gets underneath your skin is in your life for a reason. And I know you don't want to hear that, but she's reminding you of your mom or your sister or whatever. Like, she's here to help you grow. She's here to help you heal whatever, whatever pain that's coming up, or resentment or anger or frustration. Like, that's there to help you rise above that. So yes, that's a really great point. Is you came in kind of like, yeah, all right, this is
Yes.
going to be good, but I probably don't have that much work to do here. And then we can
Yes.
kind of get little like sideswiped a little bit. And so I think it's important that we bring this up, because you might get sideswiped a little bit and you might wobble more than you anticipated wobbling, even if you're just here listening to the podcast. And I think our bigger message here is like, you can handle it, breathe through it. If you have community, like, join the playground group for sure. Like, turn towards some sisterhood and community when you're feeling wobbly, and let it be the reason or the culprit to you healing this, instead of falling back to old unhealthy behaviors.
Yep. Yep.
So, okay, what's coming up for you now? Like, what do you feel like would be really potent to share?
I'm actually thinking about, how I going in, to Sisterhood Rising, to Soul Sister when I did it first. I was more of a sort of a listener. I used to be known amongst my friend circle as the mother, which basically, they called me affectionately the mother, but what they sort of conveyed was that I was like a very good listener. They could come to me with their problems. I can give them a good hug. They did tell me this, that they felt really, heard, and they felt supported, and they felt loved. But I then sort of, I think after I did Soul Sister, one of the big things that sort of hit me in the face really was that I had real trouble, unloading or sharing with someone if
Mm.
I was in trouble. If I was going through something, it was such a very tough for me to, just WhatsApp a friend or call a friend and tell, hey, I'm going through something and I need to talk, or I need help, or I need someone to hold me. Um, and that was a very interesting insight for me. And I
Oh,
think my journey has been to sort of find a balance, because
yeah,
uh, I was giving a
right.
lot,
Mm-hmm.
but in giving I was also hiding a little bit, because the giving was
Yes.
masking my inability to receive. And I've learned to sort of receive the support. um, and I found very beautiful thing that actually when I call out and I say, oh, I need this, I need support, um, I can just fall back and my soul sisters catch me. And I think
Mm.
but then that falling back was the terrifying part for me. And that I think that's what came up to me when you
Oh my
when you
gosh,
when you
that's
talked about
so good, Shweta. That's so good, because this has been a perpetual theme with myself as well. Is I've been like the mother in the relation, in the friendships, and I've always been the supporter and the saver and the fixer. And like, being the CEO of Wildly Alive, I tend to attract a lot of women who are a lot like me. And so I'm assuming that if you're listening to this, you can probably resonate with this on some level, which really helps me catapult into your awakening activity for this particular episode, which will be great. But I did the same thing where I would deflect. So, like, it was really easy for people. And this is where we create these very unbalanced relationships, where you either have somebody who is always giving, and then you have somebody who's always receiving. And there's not this synergistic relationship of giving and receiving and giving and receiving and giving and receiving. Like, that doesn't exist, and that didn't exist for me. But I was also partly responsible for that. Like, I needed to see that I was playing into that role, because what I found is anytime a friend would ask me how I'm doing, I would quickly be like, I'm good, how are you? Like, I would really quickly just turn it back on them. Oh, I'm really good, but so how's that thing with, the thing you were telling me about yesterday? Like, I would be really quick to just deflect, because yeah, this fear of not being supported, this fear of not getting it received in the way that I felt safe. And I'm trying to think maybe what else. There was like this spotlight that came on to me when somebody asked me how I was doing, and that was very uncomfortable. And this is so normal when women come into Wildly Alive, is there's this hiding that can happen within the sisterhood and the community of like not commenting under videos and not, you know, not like kind of being a little bit of a hider. You know, we talk about this when you first join the sisterhood, is that I have found we have hiders, we have givers, and we have receivers. And typically, predominantly, it's either we have somebody who hides a lot or just gives a lot. We don't have a ton of women who are constantly in the receiving mode sometimes, but predominantly it's either you're hiding and you're in the sisterhood and you're in the community, you're like there, you're watching, but you're not participating. Or there's another woman who's like protecting herself from not receiving by just giving. So this is such a beautiful segue. So how has that changed for you? So let's talk a little bit about how you finding this, healing this stuff and coming into this work, and like, how's your relationship with other women now since you've completed the class?
Yeah. So one thing that I did notice was that the women with which I was not vibing, in terms of values or in terms of my boundaries not being okay with other women, those friendships sort of they fell away, and that is something that I think does happen, and it is something that is important to let go of. But at the same time, I found uh, amazing, beautiful women who I strongly sort of resonate with, who have strong boundaries of their own, who are not afraid of, who are not perfect, of course. Even like now with some of my soul sisters, there are some difficult conversations to be had. There are some patterns that come up, but I think what is unique amongst all these women is that they are not afraid to go there. We no longer do that thing where we are like, oh, that's okay, it's all water under the bridge. That doesn't happen, or that happens very less. Rather, we do call out. If I there have been times when I felt a certain way about a behavior of a particular friend, and I have texted her or I've called her and I've said, hey, this is something I noticed, and I feel this way. So I think we are not afraid to, we honor the relationship, and we are not afraid to, and honor ourselves. So I found sisters like this, and these are sisters within the Wildly Alive community as well. Amazing women, both on the playground group and the sisterhood group. And these are, in my city, sisters who I can physically meet up and spend time with, as well as in other parts of India. And it's 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 amazing. I did not realize how powerful the concept of sisterhood can be, until and unless I saw this for myself, I experienced this for myself, and now I feel like every woman should have this. Uh, every woman should
Yeah.
experience this for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I didn't realize the hole I had in my heart until I started doing this work. That's where the denial piece came in. Did not realize, and I talk about this all throughout Sisterhood Rising and the Soul Sister class, is I remember, and I'm getting the chills as I'm saying this, I remember the exact moment when I really felt full in my sisterhood. And I'm just getting a little emotional because I am so like, this is not an easy topic to talk about. And I think that a lot of people avoid it, and it has created so much satisfaction and joy and safety and pleasure in my life that I was unconsciously sabotaging, or I was unconsciously trying to fill with food or with doing or with wine. And we just don't realize how potent this is until we really start experiencing it for ourselves. Because Shweta said, like, was her experience as well. Is she jumped in, she realized she was a little Mia. She realized she was a little uh she didn't realize she had work to do, you know, and then she worked through that stuff, and now she's able to have real deep friendships even when things don't go perfectly. And we talk about these communication styles in Soul Sister. We talk about how to have these harder conversations, because this is what's really important. Is this is not going to go perfect. You don't find your soul sister and it's not all fairies and butterflies all the time. Something will go a little sideways. She will hurt your feelings. This is not perfect. And you just have to have the skill set, the emotional intelligence, and the communication style, which we talk about in the class. I give you a very specific process on how to have these conversations, and give you a lot of very real examples in my own life where a soul sister hurt my feelings and I had to navigate that with her. And so Shweta is now experiencing this, where it's not just like, oh, she hurt my feelings and no big deal, I'm just going to sweep it underneath the rug, and then I'm going to unconsciously eat a pan of brownies because I'm so hurt by her, right? No, being able to have the confidence to come up and have a conversation about it. And I say this in Soul Sister, but it's relevant here, is we've all had really tough fights with our partners, and it's been really hard to have those conversations. And then what happens? We have like the best sex that night, right? It's the same thing with Soul Sisters, obviously not the sex part, but like the gratification, the strength. Like, you go through hardships with your soul sister and you go through these hard conversations, and it's not fun. And don't get me wrong, I am not a confrontational person at all, but I talk about why, you know, obviously this is why this is so important, is have the conversation, and then you're stronger because of things going sideways. And then what happens is Shweta was starting to attract people. And this is what I talk about, is that you not only attract people in the virtual world, and that's a really great place to start. That's why it's so powerful to really just jump into Sisterhood Rising, is you start to attract women in your virtual space. And then you start to become a beacon for these women to come and approach you at the coffee store, at the yoga studio. You know, you start to like vibe with these women who also want this level of relationship and friendship that you want, right? And so that's so great. So any last things of maybe how this translated to how you treated yourself and your body once that hole started being filled?
Yeah, absolutely. I think two different sort of ways come to mind. One is, of course, I attracted sisters who, um, thought like me, or who sort of also were into the journey of respecting themselves and loving themselves. And so accountability became a very important thing in terms of,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like we hold ourselves accountable, like, did you go to the gym? No. It was not like that, but it was more like, if one of us is down, then we not only do we hold each other, but at a certain point of time we also give each other tough love.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody, I tell my friends, what do you want? Do you want to vent? Do you want me to listen? Do you want my perspective? Do you want some tough love? What do you want? And we have that structure. I have that structure with some of my soul sisters, and I think that's beautiful. So that is one thing. Another thing is, I think being seen fully as I am, sort of also allowed me to soften towards my own body and towards my own sort of inner little girl. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that led to, like, me making more respectful sort of choices for myself, whether it is in terms of what I eat, in terms of when I allow myself to rest and receive, and also in terms of movement. And of course, not to mention the fun, um, the kind of activities we do when we do meet up or via Zoom, um, because we are in sync with each other. We are in our bodies so much more and out of our heads. And I think
Mhm.
that also reflects on the body a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay, so your awakening activity for this podcast episode is to really start looking at the synergistic relationships if your current female relationships are synergistic. Meaning, is there a balance of giving and receiving? Okay, is there that balance there? Are you somebody who's deflecting? Are you somebody who is just giving and giving and giving and giving and not receiving? And how can you start opening yourself up to receiving and like sitting in the discomfort of talking about you and your stuff and what's going right in your life together, right? Like I think this is a really good conversation, and that was like one of the bigger pieces that came up here is how can I'm leaning forward and I'm leaning back as I'm talking about this, where there's a piece where you're giving and you are holding space for your friend, and then there's also a time for you to lean back and her to support you and to breathe through the discomfort of that and try not to deflect back on her right away. Eventually you will, okay? Because this is your knee-jerk reaction. But I just want you to start sitting in it a little bit more. When she asks you how you're doing, expand on it a little bit more. And you may realize some things about that particular relationship, just like Shweta said. She realized that when she started stepping into this work, that some of her friendships weren't what she really desired them to be. And that is normal. And in the Soul Sister class within Wildly Alive Mastery, we talk about how to take these friendships that you currently have that are maybe not up to the standard that you'd like, and to raise them and have these conversations. And as somebody who has done this, like had relationships that weren't quite where I wanted them to be, you can have the conversation. And more times than not, the woman wants to rise with you because she's also missing this as well. If she's consciously aware of it or not, if she is there and she feels like a soul sister to you, she feels like a good friend to you, she wants to rise with you. She wants to deepen your current relationship even more. She is craving it just like you are. And if you don't have any of these relationships, maybe just start opening yourself up to the possibility of it and maybe what could be holding you back from really having your heart open to it as well. So awesome. Any last thoughts, Shweta, before we go?
Um, Only that, jump right in. Go to the playground, do the free masterclass, because only when you experience it, you will know how absolutely wonderful it is. And yes, it is scary, it's not easy, but it is so worth it.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. All right. Thank you all so much for joining. And as usual, when in doubt, ask your body. Bye. She is just the best. So if you'd like to continue on this journey of talking about Soul Sister and sisterhood, you can go to sameteampodcast.com and all of the podcast episodes are there. You will meet Wildly Alive mentor Martha, where she shares her own experience, her own denial, and a really beautiful story on how she sought after a soul sister that is now so nourishing and a big piece of her life now, and she couldn't even imagine her life without this piece. It's a very powerful story that I think you can relate to. And if you'd like to join our free experience, again, go to wildlyalive.com/sisterhoodrising. We would love to have you there. And if this resonated, please share. It would mean the world to us.